Have you ever looked at a company's sustainability report? You see these huge, giant numbers for energy or water use, and it's hard to know what they really mean. I mean, how can you possibly compare a massive global corporation to a small local business? Well, today we're going to crack that code. We're going to talk about a super powerful technique called normalization. Right, this is the fundamental problem, isn't it? It's for anyone, investors, customers, you, me, anyone trying to make a smart decision. When you try to put the energy use of some huge global company next to a local manufacturer, the raw numbers are just in different universes. It's a classic apples to oranges situation, and it makes finding the truly efficient company feel almost impossible. And that's really the heart of the issue. Just comparing the raw data directly is almost always going to mislead you. A bigger company, one with more factories, more people, more everything, well, it's naturally going to have a bigger footprint. But does that automatically mean it's less sustainable? Not at all. It just means it's bigger. So, how in the world do we level the playing field to get a fair comparison? Well, thankfully, we don't have to invent something from scratch. There is a standardized solution, and we're going to dive into the really powerful framework provided by the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, or SASB for short. The key concept we need to wrap our heads around is normalization. So what is it? It's just the process of taking that raw data and adjusting it to a common scale. Think of it like calculating miles per gallon for a car. We don't really care about the total gallons of gas a car used in its lifetime. We care about its efficiency. Normalization does that exact same thing, but for sustainability metrics. And this isn't just some random process somebody made up. The SASB standards, which are now part of the IFRS Foundation, they provide these super specific, really credible guidelines for 77 different industries. So to see how this works in the real world, we're going to use their standard for the building products and furnishings industry as our guide. Okay, so the secret weapon in this whole toolkit is something called an activity metric. It's a really simple but incredibly powerful idea. It's basically a single number that shows the scale of a company's business, like how much they actually produce, or just how big their operations are. This little number becomes the common scale we need for that fair comparison. All right, let's look at the first key activity metric in this standard. It's pretty straightforward. For a company that makes stuff, the most obvious way to measure its scale is just, how much stuff did they actually make? That's their annual production. Now, according to the SASB standard, companies can report this in a few different ways, depending on what makes the most sense for their specific business. They could report the number of individual units they sold, or maybe the total weight of their products in metric tons, or even the total area, like how many square meters of flooring they produced. The whole point is to get a consistent measure of their output. Okay, on to the second key activity metric. This one looks at scale from a different angle. It's not just about what they produce, but the physical space they use to do it. We're talking about the total area of their manufacturing facilities. And this is a perfect example of why precision is so important. The standard is crystal clear. This isn't just the factory floor, it's the total area under a roof. That includes the manufacturing part and the administrative spaces like offices, all measured in square meters. This gives us a really complete picture of the company's entire physical footprint. Okay, so we've got the raw data, like energy use, and we've got our activity metrics. Now for the really cool part. Let's put them together and watch how we can turn these confusing numbers into a clear, comparable insight. All right, let's imagine two companies. We've got Giant Corp, who used 50,000 gigajoules of energy, and then there's Local Shop, who only used 5,000. Now, based on these numbers alone, Giant Corp looks 10 times worse, right? But let's hold that thought. Now, let's bring in our activity metric, the facility area. It turns out Giant Corp has this massive 200,000 square meter facility, while Local Shop is working out of a much smaller 10,000 square meter space. This piece of context is about to change everything. So, to combine these numbers, we calculate something called energy intensity. And the formula is super simple. You just divide the total energy they used by their total facility area. This tells us exactly how much energy is used for every single square meter. And here it is, the aha moment. When we do the math, Giant Corp's energy intensity is 0.25 gigajoules per square meter. But Local Shop, it's double that at 0.50. All of a sudden, the story has completely flipped. The smaller company, despite using way less energy overall, is actually far less efficient for the space it occupies. And that, Right there is the power of normalization. It completely changes the narrative. By using one simple activity metric, we've shifted the conversation away from the misleading question of who is bigger to the much, much more important question, who is more efficient? It gives us the context we desperately need to see the real story. And that really brings us to the big takeaway here. This whole idea of finding the right context doesn't just apply to sustainability reports. So the next time you see a bunch of raw numbers, whether it's in sales, marketing, whatever, just ask yourself, what context am I missing? What story is this data really hiding?